Hello everyone, I'm Ian,
I'm Akiko.
and welcome back.
So today we are going to share Ian's first trip to Japan. So I'm going to ask some questions and Ian is going to share his experience first time trip to Japan. Let's dive in.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ian, you may decided to visit Japan for the first time.
When I was a child, as I said before, I had a friend whose dad taught English in Japan. So he brought over toys, games, books, models, comics, all these different things, and I fell in love with it. So then by experiencing that, it made me really want to go to Japan one day. And also, right around the same time, there was actually this Hawaiian station that was actually showing Japanese television, different shows and anime and live action things. And they had really cool toy commercials. So that really solidified my desire to go there.
So when is the first time you went to Japan?
When was it? God, I think I was in my 30s. Yeah, 30s.
Okay, all right. Then how were you feeling before the trip? What were you most excited about?
Well, I was excited about actually traveling out of the country because I'd never been out of the country before. So it was really nice being able to travel away from home and know that I'm really going somewhere. And going 500 miles is quite a trip. So I was really looking forward to it. I was super excited, and first time actually going on an airliner. I've flown in planes and helicopters here domestically, but I've never flown an airliner before. It was really exciting.
Yeah, international travel is always excite you. So tell us about your travel experience. How was the flight? Like for example, which airline did you take trip to Japan?
It was American Airlines, but they had a link with JAL at the time, but it was all American Airlines that I took. And also the first time I flew there, I didn't know any better, so I actually had connecting flights. I learned never do that again.
Yeah, connecting flights is always a hectic because you have to take extra time to get to the airport and make sure extra time to do the connection flight. Make sure you can get to the right gate on time.
What happened was, I flew from the commuter flight from LAX to San Francisco. Then we went from San Francisco, and the layover I think was about 2 hours, if I remember correctly. So it was nice to walk around the airport. At the time, they had a museum there, so it was really interesting. Also, I sat there and watched the planes take off and land. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's great.
And then we flew from there directly to Japan. So, and that wasn't the bad connection part. It was coming back. Because coming back, we stopped, I think, in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the layover was like 4 hours at that humongous airport.
Yeah.
And then finally, we went from there to LAX. So I went from that point on. I always went direct flights, no more connections at all. It's not worth it.
Okay.
But it was still a great experience. So something I'm glad I did it. So because I know what not to do. So it was a great learning experience for me.
Yeah, always a direct flight is the easiest and save time. Maybe cost a little more than the connection flights, but it's worth it. So when you arrive in Japan, and did you go through immigration without any problem?
Went to immigration. The lady that was there, she was really nice. She didn't really understand English very well, but I was the only person because when I went on the flight too, I went with a group of people from my martial arts dojo. So we all went together, and the sensei at the time, he actually asked me if I'd like to go to Japan. Have you ever been before? I said no. So I pretty much jumped at the chance. He said, oh, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go as a group. I said, okay, great. So I flew there and back by myself, but it was really fun. When I got there, the Japanese I had learned before, I actually got the chance to use. It was far from perfect, but it was still so much easier going through customs knowing something than knowing nothing at all.
That's great. Yeah. So what was the first impression step out of the airport in Japan?
Oh, it was amazing because the first thing you see, all the advertisements were all in Japanese. There was very little English, so I actually knew I was away from home. So it was really amazing. It's not like going like I live in California, so it's not like going to Las Vegas or like going to Mexico or something that's really close. I'm really, really away from home.
Yeah.
It was great because it was just amazing. It showed me that when you take a chance to do something, you really can make dreams come true if you do it. So I didn't let anything stop me. There's a lot of people telling me at the time, I remember they said, oh, you're not going to like it. You're going to want to run home. You're going to have culture shock. I had none of those issues at all. I loved every minute of it.
That's great. And a lot of people say that when they arrive at the Japan airport, they smell like soy sauce. But did you smell something
No, I didn't smell
different?
it was just completely normal, just like a normal airport. The only
Okay.
difference was the main thing was everyone, of course, was speaking Japanese, with a few people with some words of English to help try to help move things
Well,
along.
what airport was it? Is that a Narita or Haneda or any other?
It was Narita.
Narita. Okay.
No, what
Narita.
the big ones?
No,
No,
they didn't
Narita.
have that international flight to Haneda that
Okay,
time.
so it was
So it
Narita.
should be Narita.
Narita,
Yeah.
yeah. It was 2008. I think it was the first time.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I think it was,
It
but,
could be.
but it was Narita. It was Narita. That's what I flew into.
Oh, okay.
But still, it was really nice to see that. And also, then as I started going through customs, I saw other travelers and things like that. And everyone I met, everyone was very respectful. They asked questions, of course, but only once again at the time, only two people spoke any English at all. The first was the first lady that checked me in. As I was going through customs, everyone else, it was Japanese, but I basically understood what they were saying. And there was one gentleman right before we left the customs area to walk out of the airport to go into.
That's the custom.
Yeah, to leave that area, the customs area, to actually leave.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke English. He asked a few questions about where I was going and who I was staying with and things like that.
Yeah, that's the protocol.
Then I went inside, and I was actually in the country. It was really, really cool. You know, when we land in the airport, you're in the country. It was really fun, though, to actually walk outside of that. And then that was it. I was in Japan for the very first time.
Okay, that's great. So since you are arrived at Narita, so how did you go to Tokyo area? Is that by train or bus?
We took it was an early flight. So I got there, it was nighttime. So we took the train going to where we needed to go because we stayed in Nodashi. We stayed in basically Noda City. That's where we stayed because that's where the dojo's headquarters was.
Oh.
So we went around from there. But the first thing we did is we got to the dojo because everyone stayed there. There's a housing thing there that everyone stayed.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So that was the first time we got there. Everyone got settled in. And then the first thing we did is there was a convenience store that was like walking distance away.
Yeah.
Some people rode bikes, but other people, I walked there because I wanted to experience the country. And I saw, it's just beautiful because it's in the countryside. There was some city and some countryside, and it's just so lush. It's so green. It just, wow, it was breathtaking. It was amazing.
Yeah, convenience store is great. And I have no trouble going there, get my stuff, drink and then some snacks, and then they're open 24 hours. And it's clean unless if you go to the bad area, but not like US. So, I mean, I'm not saying that US is bad, but it's just,
it's different. It's not the same. Yeah. Well, also to everyone there, it's so nice. Everyone's really polite. They speak to you normally. It was amazing. It was so different. You could totally tell you're not in the United States anymore.
Okay,
really
so after you stayed at headquarters, and did you go the headquarters? Did you go to Tokyo to explore the city with a group of people or just by yourself?
We went to Tokyo. I think we went to Osaka. We went to Kyoto. I think those are the three places we went, but on different days because we were basically training most of the time. So there's different days we would go. And most people, the sensei and I, it was really weird because we were the only two that spoke Japanese. He lived there for 6 years. He's from the United States, but he lived in Japan for 6 or 7 years, I think it was. So he spoke relatively fluently. And I spoke as well, but we were the only two. So most people were walking around like pointing at things or expecting him to do all this talking and translating. And I was so happy that I wasn't that person because I just feeling limited like that. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, just knowing few words and then greeting and how to ask questions, that helps a lot.
I can introduce myself. I ask, where's the toilet? I could actually purchase things. I knew the amounts when someone would say it's a certain amount. I knew what they were saying. So they had no problem interacting with people.
Yeah, the price.
But interacting with people was the best part because I actually could. And I was one of two people in a group that could do that. So it was really nice. And people started asking me for like questions and stuff. And I said, I didn't want to be the translator because it doesn't make sense. You guys didn't take the time to learn anything. Now you're expecting me to do all the translating for you. Nah. So I started to walk away from them for the most part and start exploring on my own. They would stay in the group because they love drinking and all these things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But I took the time to explore, just walking down streets, taking all these, going all these places that they wouldn't go. I definitely went off the beaten path a lot, and I saw so much. Wow, if I can say.
Like a usual, like a traveler to Japan first time is it's kind of afraid to go somewhere, the places that not on a guidebook, like because they don't know where it look like and then they don't know the geography. But it's really nice you walk around to explore to find something new, something interesting. And yeah, that's really good. Not many people can do that.
Well, I think if I'm in the country, I want to explore. I want to see things. If I stay with the group or I stay on the beaten path, I'm going to miss so much. And I took pictures. I had experiences. I told people what I did, and they were like surprised, like, "Oh, you don't feel
Yeah,
scared?"
I even surprised what you did.
I said,
Yeah.
"Nope, not scared at all." Because basically, that's the whole point. I want to go see things because that's why I'm there. If I just stay in two places, because unfortunately, most travelers that I have met, I mean, this is fine because everyone's individual. I don't have anything against them, but my experience has been that there's people who are really adventurous who want to travel and see things, and there's others they like bringing home with them. So they love staying in the group. They love drinking and talking together. They love doing everything together, and the entire time they're all speaking English. So it's like you're not really in a foreign country because you're bringing home with you. So you don't experience it the same way. I went for walks at night. I'm by myself, completely by myself. 2, 3 in the morning. I'm walking because we'd have the day off. We didn't have to do anything like the next day, any type of martial arts training. So I would go walking at night, just down different. I'd make a left one night, then I'd take a right the next night. If I went down the other way, I'd go opposite directions. All these places that I went by myself, met people, saw all kinds of amazing things because I took the chance, and that really worked for me.
That's great.
Mm.
How did you handle the language barrier? Was there any moment with communication was difficult?
There were a few. It was really weird because the Japanese that I learned, it was a bit dormant because I hadn't been using it. When I was dropped into Japan, it forced me to have to rely on what I knew, which was really good. I brought some books and things, but even on the plane, I was listening to certain things to kind of refresh myself. But the thing that I was most impressed about, that it took roughly about 3, 4 days because we were there about 2.5 weeks, I think it was. So it took me about 3, 4 days, and my brain just switched. And I started, all the Japanese I had just came back because I was in the situation. So I was actually forced to use it, which was really good. So everything that I had learned in college, my brain just, I don't know, it started using.
Yeah, that's great because sometimes even you know the language, but in that situation to like talk to someone local, you froze. And then the words you learn and the words you know doesn't come out from your mouth. It's just literally froze.
Well, the weird thing was, still, as my first went over, a lot of it was I would understand what they were saying. The worst part is I would understand a lot of what, not 100%, but at least 70 to 80%, I would understand what they were saying, but I couldn't respond back
Yeah,
instantly. So I was like,
the painful point. Like I know they say this and then they're asking this, but when you respond in the language and just don't know, oh no, that moment, yeah, it usually happens when you learn the different language. Did you feel any cultural difference while you were in Japan?
Yes, I could definitely tell that I was not. The best way to put it is I wasn't in the U.S. anymore. It was completely different from what we do here, how people speak, how people interact. The big cities, anywhere you go, a big city is a big city, but then you start to get in the countryside, you see the difference, how it's not quite the same vibe or atmosphere.
Yeah, it's very different. And then like the time flow when you are in a city and then when you are in a countryside and then so different. Did you feel that the time flows fast and slow that time?
It was interesting because for me, because we were kind of in a way on vacation, but we were not because we were doing the training. So it was interesting because when you're in the city, you're in that city vibe. You just have that energy. And once you get in the countryside, everything is just slow and so green and just so quiet. Except you hear certain insects and things in the morning. You hear insects but so clearly.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So yeah, so it's like a totally different. It really was a different world because it's not so cool that it's not like going to, like, I've been to London, I've been to Ireland, I've been to places like, so it's not the same vibe. That's very similar to here in a lot of ways. Japan is similar but different. And it's one of those things, the only way to really, you can't really describe it until you experience it.
Yeah. How about the food experiences? Like, did you have trouble ordering food or finding the food you like? Or
No, actually, because it's interesting. A lot of people are eating a lot of the same things, but there's a lot more options there than people realize. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, you can actually do very well in Japan. It's getting better now, even better now than it was back then. There's lots of options you can eat. I don't think you have to be wary of. If you're a strict vegan vegetarian, it's a little difficult to find places that don't have bonito in the broth, because most things have, it's just a staple. That's how it is. If you go to Japan, you know that.
yeah, especially when you eat like non-meat product with like udon noodle or soba or even ramen noodle, they use the broth from chicken, pork, beef, and fish. And some people don't know it. And especially for the, what was the udon noodle broth, right? That was bonito inside. And Ian didn't know, right?
Well, the time I kind of had a feeling, but once again, I'm not going to be disrespectful to someone's culture because I'm not a fish fan. But I did. I don't. As a child, I never liked eating animal flesh because it always tasted weird to me. That's the reason I don't eat it personally. Also, it's cruel to kill animals, but it doesn't taste right to me. But a lot of times, it's flavored with things, so you won't really know the difference. But most people aren't vegan vegetarians, so you're going to love it. If you're a foodie, Japan is one of the best countries in the world to go because there's so much variation.
So much variation.
So many things.
Also, they're getting better to display what's inside of each dish. If you have a food allergy, you can look at the sign to make sure you can avoid the severe allergy. So yeah, they're getting better. And also, I noticed that like there are some vegan and vegetarian friendly restaurants are opening. So all you need to do is just search and then see what's available for you.
Which is great. And also too, what's really great too is a lot of with the food, there's so much to try. I mean, because I do love udon, soba, vegetable tempura. There's lots of things there that are amazing. I also eat vegetable gyoza.
So yummy.
It's so good. So, and just rice and different dishes. I mean, there's so many things there that are worth trying. So try and see what you like. If you're a foodie, you'll love it. If not, don't hold back. If you're curious, just try it. The worst thing that can happen is you don't need it again.
Have you talked to the local in Japan while you're traveling?
I did.
Except shopping?
Yeah, there's actually certain locals. It's interesting because I found when I traveled to Japan the first time, I noticed there are three types of people in Japan. Type one, they will speak to you. They're really curious. They're really interested. They'll ask where you're from. And also, in a lot of ways, they get to practice their English, which I think that's fine. I have no problem with that. They're really friendly and they want to speak with you, and they're really accommodating when you're trying to speak. Second types I've met, they don't really speak to you. You kind of have to warm up to them. They have to warm up to you. Then they'll start speaking, and they're fine. They're not as common, but they do exist. And the third type I ran into is the type that basically you can be naked and doing a headstand in the middle of the train, and they will completely ignore you. They won't speak to you. They won't say a word to you. If you say hi, anything, they will not speak to you at all.
Yeah,
that's the
it's
third
not
type.
really
But they're the rarest.
in a rude way, but they're just focused on themselves. And then, especially on a train. And then we have a culture that we don't really do the small talk. Like in the US, when you are waiting in line at the grocery store, all of a sudden people start talking about something. But we barely do that depending on the person and the personality. Okay, so what were the most memorable or surprise moments?
How well the first one that I really liked the most was how well the public transportation system works, especially the trains. You fall in love with it so quickly because it's so efficient. They're always on time, and you can get anywhere on a train. You don't have to drive. It's so amazing. Then you come back home, you're just like, ugh. The train was a huge surprise about just how awesome it was. Also, convenience stores, they're not like a 7-Eleven here. They have so many options. They're open. They have lots of things that you need. That was an awesome surprise.
Yeah, obento, onigiri, and snack and ice cream, drink.
seeing the shrines and temples, absolutely amazing, because we have nothing like that here in the United States. Some of these things are thousands of years old and they're still there. It's just incredible. Okay, what are the other things? How green and lush it was. That was another thing that was absolutely just stunning to see.
Yeah, the view from the Shinkansen bullet train, like if you pass the city and then going to the countryside, you will see the field. It's so green, and then you can even enjoy the different greenness.
Another really nice thing was actually if you speak to people, especially in their language, how much more open most of them are. They actually are willing to speak with you. It was really, really cool. They'd ask where you're from and things like that. And so it's interesting. Some would instantly switch to English and start practicing their English. Others would say it in Japanese. So it was a nice experience. Especially we don't have that here, so it was really different. And what else was it? And also to see another thing that was really amazing was the dichotomy of the old versus new. You go to places like Kyoto and Osaka, there's so many old temples, shrines, buildings that are still there. And it blends so well with the modern aesthetic. It's just awesome to see. We don't have anything like that here.
Yeah.
And that's just, and just going to different places, it's just a wonder. So every time you turn a corner, you see something new. Wow. And it's just like at every street, it's an experience because you're walking down a small, narrow street. You think it just leads to a doorway. And it keeps going and going. You see shops, you see bars, you see restaurants, you see all these amazing things. And that's a street. It's about the width of maybe 2 bicycles. And it's just amazing. But it's a real street. And it's like little things like that. And also sometimes in a huge city like Tokyo, you'll be walking around and all of a sudden you'll find this shrine. It's just there in the city. And unless you know it's there, you would not know to look for that because it's not on the beaten path. You have to go and explore.
Yeah.
So many things there, just amazing.
Like there are so many hidden gems everywhere. Yeah.
But you have to take the time to look for them, which I love.
So what would you say anyone considering to trip to Japan for the first time?
Go, definitely go. Don't let anything hold you back. Go and have fun. Of course, be respectful. You've heard the stories about all these YouTubers and people who go over there and just act like fools. Don't do that. Just don't be that person.
Yeah, don't disturb the local people. Just be
respectful. That's all. That's all.
That's all.
Enjoy your trip. A lot of people like to plan, and that's fine. There's a lot of touristy places in Japan. If you've never been, be ready for the crowds because there's going to be a lot, but they are worth seeing. But there's so much more to experience. The beaches, the mountains, the forests. There's so many things there. Once you start to break away from the city and start becoming a bit more adventurous, you'll really enjoy and see what makes Japan so amazing because it's so different from the US in a lot of ways. And the beauty and the culture, things that we just don't have that you wouldn't see in our country. It's not the same. Some people say, oh, you can just read it. When I went with our group to from the dojo, there's a guy saying, I said, what are you here for? He went over there basically for not really good reasons, but we'll talk about that later. But I told him, I went to see the temples and the shrines. And he's like, temples and shrines? You can just get a book for that. It's not the same. Yeah. There's nothing like seeing a temple or a shrine in person. And also, there's lots of, this may be surprising to some, but there's so many museums there. Even if you don't speak the language, take the time to see them. They're absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So this was a taste of what my first experience going to Japan. It's something that I recommend that anyone does. A lot of people have a lot of trepidation. Just go. You'll love it. Go. Definitely. So that was a glimpse into my first trip to Japan. I had an amazing experience. I recommend it to anyone because take the time to go. You won't regret it. And of course, be respectful when you're there, but have a good time and expand your world.
Yeah.
As well as things, it's a life-changing experience that you'll remember for the rest of your life. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. 見てくれてありがとう。